You know what the scary thing is? You know exactly what you need to do, but for some reason, you just can't get yourself to do it. And the question is why? Why can't we move forward? Why can't we just take action with the things that we know we want to take actions for? And tonight we're going to talk about a bunch of different things that we can start to do to understand why we're not taking the action, number one, and number two, practically what it is we can start to do to be able to take that action. Because once we figure this out, once we have this understanding of all the different things that need to go on with what it is and how it is we can start to move forward, life is going to be different. Because when we come up to those things that are really uncomfortable, we're not going to be scared by them. We're going to embrace them. We're going to be able to move forward and to really take advantage of doing the things that we want to be doing. So ask yourself, what is going on here? When you have a task to be doing, why can't you get yourself to do it? And I recently was going through a conversation with somebody, and it got a little uncomfortable because there had to be like money was involved, and those are always like uncomfortable conversations. But after the conversation, I was so grateful. And I think he was also, we were so grateful to be able to go through the thing that we needed to go through, to have a conversation, because we were both thinking about it. It was both on top of our minds. But if we weren't going to speak about it, then it would just, that tension would have just built. What we have to realize that we have things that we have to be doing. And this is one of the things that I find extremely beneficial with my relationship with my wife, where we both know that if we are going through something or the other person's doing something and we need to grow and we need to have that conversation, we want to tell the other person, hey, you're doing this thing that's really ticking me off. That is the only way we're going to grow together. Because for so many people, they can't have those conversations. It's too uncomfortable for them. But because of that, they have this tension that grows. And then there's one time where it just snaps and you just freak out at the other person and you blame them or you shame them, or you're the one who gets shamed, but you keep doing X, Y, and Z. I can't believe you're doing this thing all the time. And because of that, so many relationships are just ruined or scarred because of that. And you have to go through those times in order to become somebody. So even though it might be extremely uncomfortable, if you're not able to get through those times, you're not going to be able to grow with one another. So ask yourselves, what is it that you are going to do? How is it you're going to get better at the thing that you are looking to do? So once we understand that, then we have the responsibility to figure out, okay, what is it that I can do? Why is it that I'm not able to have those conversations? So on the one hand, I think there's this big fear that goes on. There's this big fear of failure, this fear of, so it's just going to implode. This whole situation is going to get so much worse. And I remember there was one time this goal that I was having, and I was going through it and I kept asking myself, like, why can't I just do it? Like, why can't I just find out this info? It wasn't even like taking the action. It was more just finding out information. And knowing the information was so scary to me, because if I would find out the information and it wasn't the way or the thing that I wanted, then I wouldn't know what to do. I wouldn't know how to react. I wouldn't know how to take the action that I wanted to be taking, because I knew this thing had to get done. For some reason, I just couldn't get myself to do it. So we need to ask ourselves, well, what is going on here? How is it that we can start to be able to figure out what the real fear is? Because once we understand that real fear, then we have the ability to start to tap into it. Because once we recognize the thing that we need to be doing, then we can start to strategize around it. And on the one hand, some people in certain situations, you just want to do the thing. You don't want to overthink it, because the more you overthink it, then the bigger it becomes. How many of us have gone through something, and because we delayed it at first, it became like this massive ordeal that it didn't have to be. You could just find out the information. You could take the action and do this. And I remember my wife recently just asked me to do something, and I was like so uncomfortable to do it because I just get comfortable in front of people I don't know. And I had to go do something, and I just didn't want to do it. And I ended up taking action, and I ended up doing it right away, because I knew that if I don't do it, it's just going to become this bigger thing. And I was already stressed out about it. There's only like 10, 15 minutes I waited to do it. And I knew, you know what, Bennett, don't think, just go. Because the more I think about it, the bigger and scarier this beast is going to get. And guess what? It doesn't have to be like that. So what is that we're going to do, be able to move forward to take that action? And once we have that availability, once we understand what's going on here, then we can start to move forward and take the action that we want, in order that we don't have to be scared, because so much of it is in our minds. We're just so scared about what the possibility is. And what's interesting about fear of failure is that we could switch it. We could be excited to succeed. It doesn't have to be a fear. But because we're trying to protect ourselves, we logically tell ourselves that all the things that could go wrong, which probably won't happen that way. But because we tell ourselves that, that's why we are reacting a certain way. So ask ourselves, what is it we really want to be doing? What is it we can start to do in order to make sure that things are going to be different? Because once we understand that, once we have that ability, we're going to be able to move forward. So stop freaking yourself out. Stop overwhelming about it. Stop dwelling on with the thing that you need to be doing, and ask yourself, what is the next step I need to be doing? Because another thing that happens a lot is that we want to be able to do something, but for some reason we're not able to, not because we're scared, but just because it's not known. I don't know what the next thing I'm supposed to be doing is. Recently I started talking about how I'm learning to run Facebook ads. And the scary thing is like every time I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing, I get more scared because I put this expectation on myself that I'm supposed to know exactly what I want to be doing. And the truth is like, I'm not supposed to know. And it's okay if I don't know. And what I need to start to figure out is like, what do I have to do in order to change it? How is it I can start to shift this? What are the differences that I could put into the situation in order to allow myself to see the success that I want to see? So what is it that we are doing in order to be able to move forward, to be able to take the action that we want to be taking? What are the things that we're building up in our minds that don't have to be that way, that we can start to shift so differently? And once we understand that, once we can start to figure out what's going on there, then we have the ability to do that. And then another thing we have to understand is that for many of us, we are going to have to do certain things that are make us uncomfortable. So for example, if somebody's setting a goal for themselves and they have to learn how to public speak, or if somebody has to learn how to sell, like the things that like are just so cringy for us, and we know we have to do it, but it's going to be uncomfortable. So why not just take it to the next level and grow bigger with the discomfort? Because once we're uncomfortable, that feeling is really all the same. It's really our mindset. Oh, I can't, it's like, I need to give a presentation. I need to speak in front of 100 people. Why is it crazy? It's 100 people. But like, what about speaking in front of like 500 people? Like, is that really different? Like, you're probably just feel the same exact way. It's just a bigger crowd, or 1,000 people, or 10,000 people. So not that you're gonna have the opportunity to do something like that, but why not set yourself up in order to be able to do that? And, in the personal development world, they say, 2x is harder than 10x. And the basic idea is that when we are trying to 2x our efforts, all we really do is we just 2x our time, and we have to 2x our input. But when we want to 10x our ideas and our thoughts and our success, really what's happening is we have to become somebody totally different. We can't be this person in order to do that. We have to do things differently. And by doing things differently, becoming a different person, then we have different strings we have to pull. And it's not what we've been doing that got us there. It's totally different. It's different areas of our life that we have to start to work on. So ask ourselves, what is it that I want to be doing? What, in an ideal situation, an ideal world, what is it that I want to be doing? And honestly, it's a more exciting world because then we're able to shoot for the stars, and we know it's going to get uncomfortable anyway. So might as well push ourselves just a little bit. Might as well get ourselves excited just a little bit. Because once we could do that, then we have the ability to start to move forward and to start to take action in the different areas that we want. So what are the things that make you uncomfortable that you know you need to be doing? Why are they making you uncomfortable? Is it some type of fear? Is it unknown? And if we could start to say, hey, you know what? This thing that I'm going through right now is the thing that's going to help me grow. This is going to make me become that person. Then all of a sudden it's a different shift. And honestly, there was one time I was playing in this rec league, more recently, honestly. So I still got the game. I still got the game. I was playing in this rec league, and we were in the championship. And in the championship, I was nervous. I was nervous day of the championship. And what was interesting is that on the one hand, I was nervous. On the other hand, I was very curious about the feeling that I was going through, because now that I come into personal development, I start to analyze myself as I'm going through things. And I'm like, how can I make a video out of this? Or how can I share this with other people? Or what is it that I could do right now that I can now teach other people to do in order to help them alleviate the feeling that I'm feeling? And I was getting really nervous about it. And I started to ask myself, what is it that's going on right now? And I realized a line that I heard from a coach that I didn't have, but I was associated with. His name is Jason Dries. And Jason Dries talks about this idea of imposter syndrome. And what is imposter syndrome? This feeling that you don't belong, this feeling of nervousness. And really what's happening is we are growing in the moment. That feeling that I was going through at the time of the championship is, I don't belong here. I've never been to the championship before. I can't become this type of person. But what's interesting is that who said that? Who made that up? But it was only in my mind. Because of that, I was telling myself I didn't belong in this position. And because I didn't belong in this position, then I wasn't able to perform possibly. And that was the thought that I was thinking. I'm not going to be able to perform because I've never been on this stage before of like my little community basketball league. Right? I've never been on that stage before. And what I realized is that for so many of us, we put things in our minds that don't have to be true. We start to make these beliefs about ourselves. And what I started to remind myself is that I'm growing. This is me growing right now, because up until this point, yeah, I might have never been in the championship before, but guess what? The next season, maybe I'll be in the championship, and the season after that, and the season after that. And I'm going to become somebody who could become that type of player who is going to be able to make the championship. So we need to ask ourselves, What is it we are becoming in those times? Because those are the times of growth. Just like when you're going out in the gym and you're working out. So at the times you're lifting 1 pounders, you're not growing any muscles. But the times that you're going there and you're lifting 50 pounds, 75, 100, 150 pounds, and you're pushing yourself, you might not even be able to do a rep, but you're pushing yourself to be able to take the action. That's going to be the time that you're going to grow. That's going to be the time when you're going to be able to become somebody, to become the person that you want to become. And that is a very special time, because that is when you are going to really become the person that you were looking to become. So ask yourself, what is it that you can start to do right now in order to allow yourself to become that person? And finally, we need to ask ourselves, so what is it we're going to be consistent with? How is it we can constantly put ourselves in the situation? And that's why it's really powerful, because one of the things that you can start to do when you start to feel yourself in a situation where you're getting uncomfortable is that you can borrow that feeling and you can copy and paste it in a different situation. So now that I was able to be in my basketball championship rec league, and I was able to get uncomfortable, and I was able to get nervous, and I was able to then perform in that situation. So now I can take that positioning and take that emotion and say, hey, this next time I'm supposed to give a public speech and I feel really uncomfortable. Guess what? I've been here before. I've done this before. And it's borrowing our experience from one area of our life to the next area of our life. And even if it's like, hey, maybe I didn't play well in the basketball championship, but it's like, hey, I've been here before. What have I done well over here? What is it that I can start to do differently in order to be able to take that action? Because once we can start to borrow it, then all of a sudden our self-esteem rises. Because if you think about self-esteem, it's when we get confident in different areas of our life, and I'm confident in this area, that area, then all of a sudden I start to feel better about myself because I'm putting myself out there. In order to become more confident, we have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that discomfort is going to be the thing that we're going to have to do in order to grow our confidence. So when we are able to take that action, when we are able to move forward, when we are able to become courageous in the moment, in spite of the fear, and really look to take that action, then we have the ability to grow our confidence. And it's so sad that so many people get so stuck. They're literally so stuck because they can't take the action. And we need to set ourselves up. And so many times people are overthinking this idea, and they're overthinking what it is they need to be doing. But it doesn't have to be that way. You have the ability to get through it. You can do something uncomfortable. You have the ability to be courageous in the moment, because I guarantee you, you've been there in the past. You've done it before. And because of that, we have to be able to move forward and really take advantage of what it is we're looking to take advantage of. So ask yourself, what is it that I need to be doing? How is it that I can start to take the action that I want to take in order to become the person that I want? Stop pushing it off. For so many of us, we push it off for so long. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to push it off anymore. You don't have to wait anymore to become the type of person that you want to become. What are the things in your business that you need to be learning? What are the things in your personal life? Figure them out. Learn to get uncomfortable. Learn to have those conversations, those cringe-worthy conversations that you really don't want to have, but you don't have to happen. And ask yourself, make yourself a list of what are the next 10 things I need to do to take my level to the next, to take myself to the next level. And whether that's you creating a wheel of life where you're able to just see all the different things in your life that you can be working on and wanting to work on, or whether that's just figuring out what's stressing you out right now. Like, what are the things that are really stressing you out? What are the conversations you want to have with your boss, right, with your spouse, or with your kids, or whatever it might be? Ask yourself those questions, because once you're able to have those questions, then I'm telling you, things are going to be very different, because you're not going to be scared to take that action. Imagine that. Imagine you were not scared to take action. You were not scared of the result about what would happen in a specific conversation. Guess what's going to happen? You're going to be able to move forward. You're going to be able to not be scared of doing anything, because you're only going to be able to move forward because you're not fearful of that. And what we need to start to do is that, and recognize that so many times what's really holding us back is us. We're the thing that's holding us back. Our minds are what's holding us back. This idea that we built up in our head is just built up in our head. It's not real, but we make it feel like it's this concrete wall that we're surrounded by and we can't move forward. And we need to ask ourselves, what is it we want to be doing? How is it we can start to take that action? What are the baby steps I need to be doing in order to become that type of person? Because once we're able to do that, there's no limit to what we can do. Imagine if you're somebody who doesn't get scared ever and you're just able to take action. You would be investing in the things you want to be investing in. You'd be researching the things you want to be researching, and you'd be speaking to the people you want to be speaking to. You'd be getting into the rooms and doing all the things that you want to be doing. Your experiences, your life will be different. Your relationships will be different. And we need to ask ourselves, what is it we can start to do in order to become that person? So yes, it might be very uncomfortable, but on the other hand, is it not worth it? And the only way to get through that discomfort is by doing it and then becoming comfortable by doing it. Because the more you do it, the more you're going to get comfortable. Just like when you were a kid and you were a baby and you kept falling every time you walked. Guess what? You kept doing it and you figured it out. So wishing you luck. If you have any questions, like always, feel free to reach out. See everybody on the next one.